Hi, this is Angelo Orman, your host for the NutraVegan channel. And today, I've got a good friend of mine, and also, he's very unique in the world. He is a research scientist, okay? And he is also a vegan. And he was just telling me 5 minutes ago, he says, you know what, Angelo? People may not watch this show because you told everybody you're not a vegan. Well, the reason why I did that, because it's true, number one. Number two, 50 years ago, I started making a new, healthier, and better way to make cheese, which didn't have the cholesterol, lactose, and stuff like that. I also invented vegan cheese. I'm the vegan inventor throughout the world. I was the first one to do that. And I became a vegan for a while. Did I feel better? Yeah, I did. But I decided that, I wasn't going to do it the rest of my life. But here's what I did do. I've written 3 books quoting a great, great, great scientist, Albert Einstein. There's nothing that the world can do to guarantee the survival of mankind than to move toward a vegan diet. Okay? So I'm here to tell everyone in this generation, you think they're going to have herds of cows on the moon or Mars? Matter of fact, Frank Smith, president of Boeing, was on my board of directors. And nobody knew this, but he had to test all the foods before the astronauts went anywhere, including the moon. And he gave the astronauts our cheese, but I wasn't allowed to talk about it. I was not allowed to talk about it. And whether they took it on the spaceships, I don't know that either. Okay, so I don't know nothing like that, but I know Frank Smith. But anyhow, just talking about veganism, how important it is. I say in my last book, my first book, my second book, if we would just cut back by 10% as a world, I mean, all these problems we have with air pollution, water pollution, all the problems we have with feeding societies, hunger. God, when you think about hunger, how many kids die every week? 1 million a week. Think about that. 1 million kids from malnutrition throughout the world. And a lot of them's right in our own hemisphere. Right here in the Americas. Unbelievable. But veganism is very important. Anyhow, Richard, tell them who you are. Give me your full name and what you do.
So my name is Richard Sellers. I'm actually a registered nurse. I've been a nurse since 1998, and I'm also a researcher. I don't practice nursing anymore. I keep that as my credentials to do what I do now. But yeah, I work with pharmaceutical companies that are testing drugs, and I work in that kind of industry. I've been doing that for about 15 years now. So,
yeah, that's great. We've talked a lot casually about things, but we never talk too much about in depth. But we'll get in depth here a little bit. But Richard, in conversations, we've talked about the drug industry, and why don't we talk about your views on a lot of the drugs today? You mentioned to me, I think you said that a lot of the drugs today aren't worth much. They're superfluous. There's a lot, you also said as we all know, there's phenomenal drugs, and a lot of these scientists have done things that are God-given. They're fantastic. They save lives every single minute, every single second. We're not trying to put down the drug industry, but we're trying to say that, the drug companies, they interface a lot with the FDA and the drug companies, and a lot of times a lot of hanky-panky going on, all right? And it's not good. I don't want to talk about that so much. I just want to talk about, your views on some of the drugs that you've tested and some of your views in general as far as, maybe the usage of drugs.
yeah, well, first of all, definitely just being in my industry can't share too much information with as far as like what I've worked on, but because those are drugs being tested still. But one of the things that I do notice is that the whole premise of the drug industry is to create drugs to cure diseases that the foods that we eat can cure themselves. So my thing is why not try to be.
So you're saying basically there's not too much prevention being done. They talk
It's
about,
all about
all the symptoms and
treating
disease.
something
Once it
disease.
happens.
So the drug industry relies on disease, obviously, to make money if it makes sense.
Sure.
So that's one of the things. Sometimes it's actually a conflict with me. because that's the industry that I work in and chose to go into. But yeah, it is pretty eye-opening when you realize when you become a vegan like I have. I've been a vegan for fully vegan for like almost a year now, but
You look great,
prior
Rich.
to
I
that,
tell you
on and
what,
off for
you've
like,
lost weight.
for the last
Your
couple
skin
of years.
tone is great.
And just the way you feel, when you do become a vegan, when you start eating, I really, more than anything consider myself a plant-based whole food proponent, only because I don't practice veganism for although I think it's great that I'm not causing animals to die for the food that I eat. I think that the reason why I do veganism or plant-based whole food diet is for my health mainly. So, and when you change and you realize how that makes you feel, it makes you want to continue to get that feeling again. So, and continue to keep that feeling. So,
Yeah, the president of our company, Greg Bunn, he's gone to a plant-based diet, and boy, oh boy, he feels great. He's got tremendous energy. And Greg's I think he's 63 now, but he's got tremendous energy. I've got tremendous energy, and I'm going on 77.
that's
I'm
awesome. I'm 51, and I have the best energy of my life, it seems, right here lately.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I'm
yeah.
always working hard, feeling great. So, yeah.
Well, when you think about the societal advantages, Richard, of being a vegan, they are many. First of all, to the most important thing, which is the human being. What's more important than what God made, us?
Mhm.
All of a sudden you're epitomizing that. You're epitomizing it in your own mind, and you know what you're doing. You're a very intelligent man, I know you are.
Mm-hmm.
But right now you're not affecting, the planet and stuff like that. I mean, to ingest plants as opposed to animals, for example. If you eat a pound of beef, it takes about 17 pounds of different plant foods to generate 1 pound of effective flesh protein. And because of that, we have all kinds of different problems with water. For one steer, you can float a battleship. That's how much water you need.
Wow.
Yeah, that
Wow,
steer's
that's a
about
lot.
12 to 1,500 pounds. You can float a battleship. That's how much water you need.
Wow.
So, I mean, there's all kinds of different things that happen as the population grows. So societally, okay, you're affecting the health, your personal health. You're affecting healthcare costs. Look at healthcare costs in the United States. They've gone crazy. I mean, we can't figure out how to do it. But if everybody would do what he did, and this is my reason for being your host, and forgive me for not being a vegan, I'm just being honest. The fact of the
We'll
matter
get
is,
in there one day, maybe.
okay, I'm a vegan once in a while. I'll go vegan if I want to cleanse.
I got my mom there,
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I'll go vegan for a week sometimes.
so maybe we can get you there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good.
Is that a
Okay. Fantastic.
good challenge?
But when you look at some of the societal issues, as far as cost, as far as getting our animals grown and slaughtering them, and the cost of doing that, and the difficulties of doing that, we talk about conversion factors on how about 85% of our products go into to feed animals. So you have to grow, all that stuff. 85% of our grains and stuff like that go to feed animals. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that.
So all the different hunger and stuff like that, that's in the world law, that can be alleviated very easily. And then just to feel good about everything,
I did a stepwise approach to mine. I just realized that I needed to do something with my health. My labs weren't the best, a couple years ago when I went for my physical. And so I just picked up a book one day. I was at the store, I picked up the Whole Foods diet or whatever. Anyway, and so I read about that, and I cut back my meat at first.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt better from doing that, and I started losing weight. I was 185 pounds, and I started losing a little weight. And so I realized something was working, And so just more and more I started, learning more about, animal foods and how much better plants are for you. And so it was a gradual approach for me doing that. So it made it a
Well, I remember
lot
that
easier,
process. I
a lot
remember
easier.
talking to you
Yeah,
about that.
I talked to you guys
And
all
you're
through
down to
that,
what?
so.
What do you weigh now?
I weigh like 160, 155, and 160. That's my
Wow.
weight.
He's in perfect shape, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I feel great. So,
Yeah, fantastic. So, I mean, what do you see as the future for veganism? You see a lot of these new burgers coming out, and they're making a big splash. Bill Gates is involved in a big investment in one of the burger companies, and there's a couple of them. I don't want to name them. By the way, my brothers have a burger, and it's a great product. It's a fantastic product. But what's it called, Brian? You know what they call it? I'm trying to think. I should give them a plug right now. But they call it the Bahama Burger. He called it the Bahama Burger. And it'll come to me. I'll tell you later on. Anyhow, tell us about what's going on in your mind as far as the average person's concerned relating to veganism.
well, I think a lot of people, they hear the word vegan a lot of times, and it's kind of a negative word. I know my best friend, just telling him, that I was going to be vegan, it was kind of just like I was cursing at him or something. So I think that, my take on, veganism in general is that it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do. It's becoming a lot easier in some areas especially, and also me too, I travel for work, and so traveling and being a vegan is also, it has a lot of challenges, and we talked about that earlier too, how, taking these with me on the plane, I can get my daily allowance of omega-3s, and also, I don't have to, I like to eat a lot of chia seeds in my diet normally, but having your product with me all the time when I travel.
Plus, you're guaranteed. This is a new cultivar of chia. There's over 1,000 different varieties, but we guarantee you the nutrition. That's why we gave it a new name. Years ago, just like a rye or barley, it's just a strain, a genus of wheat. Whoever invented that got the distinctive privilege to give it a name, and I was given that same privilege. I developed a new cultivar, which is the most important thing that you can possibly take for your health, with the omega-3s and things of that nature. And some chias aren't nutritious at all. They're not nutritious at all. They can grind up the plant, they can grind up the leaves, the roots, and things of that nature, and call it chia. Because there's no standard of identity. We developed a standard of identity. By the way, my brother's product is called, Rizofu. Okay, it's called Rizofu. They just introduced a hamburger. Okay, it's made from their new product called Rizofu, which includes, omega-3s in it. So I just wanted to show you that the brain is still working. It's still working.
It's from,
because I'm making healthy cells in my head. I don't have Alzheimer's. I don't have dementia. I hope I never get it. But anyhow, talking about, Richard, the societal implications here, how do you see this as far as momentum? I mean, it seems like in the last couple of years or so, with Bill Gates getting involved and others, and the government doesn't talk much about prevention. The school systems, the same subsidy program that Roosevelt started in 1937, they're still in place. They don't take into effect all the different things that have transpired as far as knowledge is concerned. I'm talking about clinical knowledge.
It's unfortunate. Yeah, that's the problem we face today is that, you have to basically educate yourself, because the food industry, the drug industry, they don't want to teach you these things because you're not going to use their products.
Exactly, yeah.
So, you have to educate yourself, on what's available out there, and I have a positive outlook on it though, because, I do see it seems easier to get, products that are whole food, plant-based, vegan options and stuff like that now, more and more that I as time goes by, but it's still not as quick as I would like it.
Thank goodness that what you just mentioned, there are so many entrepreneurs out there in the restaurant business that we can set up that link, all over the United States, Canada, and Mexico. As far as when you travel, like you and I talked a few months ago.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, when a fellow like him travels, he wants to make sure that he can get himself a good vegan meal. So what we're doing is we're setting up a food service group. If any restaurateurs out there want to join us, We got Dr. Wayne Gurick at Tuscany Square in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. We'll set up your whole menu, the whole 9 yards, give you distribution, et cetera, to do that. And that's something that's very, very, very important. But societally right now, I think that the government programs, unfortunately, are bad. Not just from the standpoint of not wanting to tell people about healthy eating and stuff like that, because they mention it, but they don't talk too much about it. But at this point in time, there's so much knowledge out there, But here's what happens. And the reason why I'm doing the Nutra Vegan channel is because when I was a young kid, and I was 22 years old, and I invented a new healthy and better way to make dairy products using soy, rice, and oats, no dairy. I was the first one in the world to do that. I had vegan milk in 1966. I had vegan cheese in 1966. I was very, very proud of that.
Wow.
But,
Early productive.
yeah. So the very next day, it was New Year's Eve. I was so excited when I developed it. It took me 1,507 experiments, but I got it done. The next day, I was so excited. I woke my mother and dad up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I went and told my buddies about it, and they had grocery stores. And I told a guy, small distributorship, little Jewish distributorship in the Hill District of Pittsburgh called Cantor and Smaller. And they wanted it because it was parv kosher. But any of that, I was the first one to sell that. But I could do that back then. Back then, when I did that, there were 3,500 entities in the grocery business, little chains. So if I'd get my little briefcase, run up and down the street, and promise people that I would pick it up if it didn't sell, guarantee to sell. I mean, Americans, they give the underdog, they give people a chance. We live in the greatest country in the world, as everybody says, and it's absolutely true. Mm-hmm. But here's what's changed. If I would get in my car right now and drive up and down the street, and I don't live too far away from 50, okay, in I-4, the I-4 corridor, I couldn't sell anybody. You know why? It's all the big grocery chains, okay? And because of the amalgamation, there used to be 3,500 grocery chains in the United States back in '66, and now there's about 18 that control 85% of all the sales.
Wow, I didn't know
So
that.
when I go to put this in, they say, oh, we got category management. Come back in a year. If you're on my list, the buyer will say, I'll consider your product. And by the way, I was just told this, a couple of weeks ago, I told you about this individual in the second show. This is the third show, by the way. This is my third guest, Richard. I was told by one of the head marketers, Official Health, that they can care less if they lose billions of dollars because they're making billions. And because the business is controlled, for me to do an advertising program just to get started, so you would get people to see the ad maybe 2 or 3 times a month, would cost $50 million or more
Wow.
to market to the grocery stores,
Wow.
okay? And I gotta say that we have patents. We have the world's healthiest whole food, and I've worked on it for 17 years. And we've been trying to raise, $100 million, 50 to 100 million. And guess what? Wall Street ain't buying it. But if you're a new drug, as soon as you get a patent, even though you haven't sold a nickel, and maybe you've lost 500 million or $1 billion, the average drug costs $3 billion to get approved. 3 billion,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
That's true.
Right, Richard?
That's true.
We have a patent on the world's healthiest food that'll reduce our healthcare costs in the United States by over 50%, agreed to by the FDA, the USDA, the American Medical Association, the World Health Organization, and guess what? Wall Street. I took a company public years ago, 1987. By the way, Donald Trump helped me out with bridge financing, and Don King with the big hair. And I had a very successful company called Galaxy Nutritional Foods. That's the vehicle I used to grow my vegan cheese business, which became #1 in the world. But right now, today, trying to raise money to do this, no. Wall Street won't give me a penny. And I had some of the best people in the world trying to raise the money for me. So that's very interesting. And we have a program called, we'll talk about in a later show, Take It to a Penny and Make Millionaires of Many. We want to empower the consumer, not Wall Street. And I figured out how to do it. And we're going to talk about that. We'll make every investor, it's almost like a Bitcoin thing. When a buddy of mine heard about Bitcoin, he didn't buy it. It was like 5 or 10 cents. Now it's $10,000 a share. And there's other things out there that are like that. This is like that. That's another story. We're not in it for the money. I've had a lot of money in my life. I'm in it for you. What I think about is I think of that little girl around the holidays, around Christmas, and she's looking up at her mother, and her mother's baking something for her brothers and the rest of the family, making foods. That little girl and that family expects the grown-up in the room to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to, but they're not being educated. And I'm being dramatic here, because this is real dramatic.
It's not
very
too dramatic. I think it's important.
It's very, thank you, Richard, thank you. It's very, very important. So, Wall Street, shame on you. Shame on you. And I'm using a great company to raise the money. Company's name is Zenergy, out of San Diego. X, N-E-R-G-Y. And the chairman of the company, the founder of the company, is a great woman, Nia Stefani. And I've been working with her, and she can't understand it. She can't figure it out. But I figured it out. I figured it out. Wall Street, the big guys, they don't want to see it. Right now there's a fight. There's a fish oil that got FDA qualification, not claims. They can't make a claim. They got to make a disclaimer. But they spent $500 million on Vasepa. All right? And they're fighting the fish industry right now. They're fighting them, saying that they can't say what they're saying. And they're not saying anything other than there was a slight indication. There's the indication if you drink a glass of water, you're not thirsty. But the American Medical Association did the largest study in the world, and the whole world did studies. And the American Medical Association concluded their study and published it January 31st, 2018, in the cardiac pulmonary part of the JAMA report. Doesn't help your heart, doesn't help your brain, doesn't help your kidney, doesn't help your gastrointestinal tract, doesn't help diabetes. It doesn't do anything. Nothing, zero. But they're still out there trying to make a go of it. You know why? Because they know that I got a patent on this, and they don't want to see this ever. This is from a plant, and all the parameters of this have been proven. They've all been proven to make the healthiest possible cell. When you make the healthiest possible cell, you improve your brain, you improve your skin, you improve your heart, your kidney, your liver, everything, your telomeres, your longevity. Children, when a phospholipid is made using ALA, linoleic acid, alpha-linoleic acid, linoleic acid, from this product, a Nutri-Grain, which is non-GMO. God put it here. I just made it healthier through non-GMO methods. When you make the healthiest possible cell, you lower your risk of disease by over 50%. And they don't want to see this because I got a patent on it. Little old me. And I think what I'm going to do probably, that's why we're doing this show, to get the word out. But we have a program called Take It to a Penny, like I said earlier, Make Millionaires of Many. So we're telling everybody, we're going to talk about this at another show, financial show. But I wanted to bring it up. Richard, you talked about your mother. I met your mother, wonderful woman. Mm-hmm. I know she has some challenges. Mm-hmm. How long ago did she become a vegan? Just months ago?
It's so funny. She's going on the second month now.
Really?
and it's been an interesting road with her. She's kind of like a kid now. I'm around her and she sees, you know, what I'm cooking and stuff like that, or what I'm making, and she wants to try it or whatever. But my mom was having problems. She's had recent stroke. She had breast cancer, and she has high blood pressure, and pre-diabetic and stuff like that. And so I read this book, you know, recently, How Not to Die, Dr. Michael Greger. And anyway, so I got that book from my mom, and then in the process, I started, you know, bringing the food that I wanted to eat, because she knows I'm vegan and stuff now too. In the process of being a vegan and going to visit them, I know they're not going to always have the right foods that I want. I would bring the food with me, and she kind of just picked it up from that. And then she started trying some of the food that I was eating and started feeling better. And I started, you know, saying, you know, you're coming up, you know, on your next physical, try not to eat, you know, meat or any kind of dairy or whatever, and see how that affects your blood work. So anyway, so she did it for a month, and then she had her physical, and like just that month, she started feeling better. And then the labs came back, and her cholesterol numbers were better than they had been in forever.
She's not taking the statin drug, is she?
She is taking that.
She's still taking it.
She wants to get off of it eventually.
Yeah.
But the doctors told her that, you know, oh, you'll never be able to come off of that. And so I know she will, because she's determined now. But now she's in month 2, and the reason why she does it now is because she feels good. And she has more energy now than, I mean, I hear it in her voice. I see it in her. She's...
Has your skin tone changed a little bit? A little more rosy complexion.
I just
smoother
know
skin.
that she just seems like, just when I talk to her, seems like she has more vitality. So
Yeah, well, that's great.
yeah. So,
As far as talking about statin drugs, I know a lot about statin drugs, how it just blows up your liver, and it really affects your liver in a very deleterious way. And it's very, very controversial. It's the largest selling drug in the world. It's over $30 billion in sales.
terrible side effects.
Terrible side effects. And
ruin
Dr.
your
Wayne
kidneys.
Bureau is going to do a show with me on statin drugs. Matter of fact, we did studies on lowering cholesterol, okay? And this lowers cholesterol, this product right here, in a lot of different ways. Number one, when you make a healthier cell, your metabolism is better. So naturally, you're going to lower your cholesterol. Okay, number two, the fiber, when you digest it through your colon, you take a lot of the bad cholesterol out of your system. Number three, okay, the HDLs are made because of oleic acid, omega-9, okay? So you got the healthiest cells being made with alpha-linoleic acid, linoleic acid, and oleic acid, omega-9. And that's how nature, there's only a few ways to lower your cholesterol. You can exercise, okay? You can eat a lot of fiber, okay? Or oleic acid, or make the healthiest cells, or take statin drugs. Now, Dr. Bill Robbins has done a study, and that study's on our website, on how it lowered cholesterol significantly, where a lot of people can go off statin drugs. I've got people right now, Dr. Wayne Burek, medical doctor, he runs a culinary school, and he's chancellor of the university that we started in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. He owns Tuscany Square Restaurant. But he is such an opponent, such an opponent. He hates statin drugs. Matter of fact, he'll tell you about his cousin. His cousin's in his 80s, he had Alzheimer's, and he didn't know anybody at dinners and parties. He stopped going to them. But after he started getting this product, because this crosses the blood-brain barrier immediately. DHA and EPA. Fish oil doesn't do that at all. It needs MFSD2A. It's a protein that attaches and only goes through in a limited way. But it doesn't do any good anyhow. But this goes through freely. Boom, boom, boom. So when your blood needs to make a new cell, boom, it's right here. And the alpha-linoleic acid actually embeds in the cell with another ARA, arachidonic acid. And as soon as the signal is given by the cell to make a healthy cell, everything's laying there, boom, it's made. So this individual that I'm telling you about, Dr. Wayne Burek's, I believe it's his cousin, No more Alzheimer's. He recognizes people. It's amazing. And he's taken a lot of people off of Alzheimer's. He's taken a lot of people off of, taking statin drugs. So statins, I don't like them. I don't believe in them. I think there's a better way. Like we started the show, Richard. We started the show. You mentioned the fact that a lot of people say, let prevention, let food be your medicine, and that's prevention. And we're so lucky as Americans. God, you can go to Publix, you can go to any store, Kroger, you can go to any grocery store, Giant Eagle. My cousin owns one in Elwood City, Pennsylvania. My brother owns a little store too, called L's Market in Coppell. Okay, and he has our products there. He has our chocolate bar. Oh, we got the world's most delicious chocolate bar.
The best
Did you try that
bar.
chocolate bar?
That's the best chocolate
It's a
bar.
vegan chocolate bar.
It's really good.
Forget about chocolate. We got the absolute best. Anyhow,
And you
my
get your omega-3s by eating
100%, yeah. My director has just told me
You can eat chocolate
that-
and be healthy.
I'm talking too long, talking too much. So I'm going to shut up. Richard, you want to say anything?
Get some of this.
All right, Richard, thanks a lot. Okay.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
very
me
much
today.
for being on the show. Number 3, 1, 2, 3, third show.